What is going on, everyone? Welcome into Big Time Football Talk. So I want to get into this. I've recently kind of thought about Carson Wentz and Dak Prescott. Those are guys I've had kind of opinions on in recent years. Not always the best opinions, not always the biggest fan of either guy, but I want to talk about why people are biased and why people think more highly of those guys. You know, in life, there's people that, whether it's, say, school, for example, there's kids that are, always in trouble, maybe hang with the wrong crowd, do drugs or whatever. And the teacher has low expectations, and they end up getting a B or C in the class. And it's like, wow, they greatly exceeded expectations. The teacher thinks so highly of them. They compliment their parents for, what a great job they've done. They were hanging out with losers and they ended up getting a great grade in the class. And they exceeded very low expectations, like good job for them, pat on the back. Like, wow, that teacher really thinks back and remembers that student that just greatly exceeded expectations. Dak Prescott came into the NFL somewhat highly touted, played at Mississippi State a few years, had that great run where they eventually got ranked number 1 at one point before losing to Alabama. And had a shot at the national title, SEC title, whatever. But came into the NFL, was kind of expected to just be a backup to Romo, a guy that could maybe get a shot later on. You know how that is. But came in, they finished 14-2, ended up having that strong playoff run and just coming up shy to Green Bay. And Cowboys fans, since, they've loved Dak Prescott, he greatly exceeded their expectations. They had a certain expectation. His expectation was he likely wasn't going to play. And he blew that expectation out the water. And now there's Cowboy fans that are still all for Dak Prescott. There's like, should we pay him? There's a lot of Cowboys fans that are about paying him the money, which is absurd. It's Andy Dalton. I'm here to tell you that they're better off going with Andy Dalton this year. And that may sound crazy, but you know what? Andy Dalton's a guy that, whether you like him or not, Cincinnati was competitive a few years. They made the playoffs a few times. Andy Dalton's as much of an accomplished quarterback as Dak Prescott. Let's be honest. Same thing goes for Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz came into the league. He was the number 2 pick in the NFL draft. But the thing was, not a lot of people watched him play in college. You know how that goes. If you don't really watch a guy, it's kind of like people now, like people in this generation, like my age, saying that LeBron is better than Jordan. Well, it's, that's obviously a huge toss-up, but people nowadays watch LeBron. That's why you favor LeBron rather than Jordan. But so people didn't really watch Carson Wentz. He wasn't expected to start year one and really wowed people away. Philly fans really loved that Carson Wentz was tough. He's a blue-collar guy, made plays. I think they went like 8-8 his first year, and then the second year he got hurt, but there's Eagles fans that really love Carson Wentz, and he kind of represents Philly, just that blue collar, tough, guy that you want on your team that's going to compete. They want a competitor. So, and he exceeded the expectations year one. His expectations were he likely wasn't going to play, and did a good job. So. And then this year, there's, usually when you like something, you usually make excuses. It's that bias. There wasn't any receivers. They didn't have any receivers. Which was true for the first couple games. But Alshon Jeffrey came back, and Carson Wentz is okay. I'm not buying the hype. I just don't think he's as good as people want to make him out to be. He's I don't know. He's a guy that people think more highly of because he's exceeded, both him and Prescott have exceeded expectations. That's the bottom line. So, but I wanted to get into this. I want to transition to, not that, I want to get into the Philadelphia Eagles preview. So I want to break down some of the Eagles. I've been watching tape on the Philadelphia Eagles, so I want to kind of talk about what they got going on for this year. So I talked a little bit about Carson Wentz. This is going to be a telling year for him. So Deshaun Jackson likely back. They have Alshon Jeffrey. They drafted the kid from TCU, the wide receiver, who's very fast, is going to be a deep threat. So that'll help out the Eagles. They need help at the wide receiver position. They obviously had Nelson Aguilar, who took a lot of heat from Eagles fans with all the drops he had. So, but the Eagles are, they're have a good depth of the running back position. I really like Miles Sanders. The guy has very good vision for the running back. He's not blazing fast, but has good speed, good cutting ability. He was kind of a guy that was kind of like the number 2 guy for Saquon Barkley at Penn State. But, Barkley's talked highly about Miles Sanders, and, the other way around. Miles Sanders has obviously had a lot of good things to say about Saquon Barkley. Two really good running backs from Penn State, now both having success in the NFL. So it'd be interesting to watch if Sanders kind of becomes like the go-to guy. Also have Jordan Howard still there. So, but wide receiver position, the guy from TCU, you got Alshon Jeffrey. Hopefully they'll stay healthy this year for the Eagles. That'll make them a competitive team. Also got one of the better tight ends in Zach Ertz. Dallas Goedert was a guy that emerged a little bit at tight end too. So on the defensive side of the ball, you got Brandon Graham, former Michigan Wolverine. He's one of the better defensive ends in football. For a long time, Eagles fans called him a bust, but they finally switched their defense to a 4-3 to max out Brandon Graham's talent, because that's what he was. He's a down 4-3 lineman. He's not an outside linebacker. That's never what he was at Michigan. He's a true 4-3 down, or hand in the dirt defensive end. That's what Brandon Graham is, and that's where he thrives in. Nate Gary's shown flashes at the outside linebacker position. Josh Sweat, a guy that was very highly touted out of high school, not great career at Florida State, was drafted 3rd or 4th round, has showed some flashes. I think he's kind of been humbled by the whole thing. If some of those guys 5-star, it comes into Florida State, he starts, and then kind of humbled in the NFL to be a backup. And then Derek Barnett, a guy that's been very solid too, former Tennessee Volunteer. Really like what I've seen out of Derek Barnett. They hope he keeps improving. Fletcher Cox, a defensive tackle, one of the better defensive tackles in football. At corner, they bring in Darius Slay, get Darius Slay through the trade with the Lions. The Lions gave up a 3rd and 5th round pick to get Darius Slay, I believe. Also have Rodney McLeod at safety. Malcolm Jenkins still going strong. He's getting up there in age, but Malcolm Jenkins so versatile. I've been saying for years, Malcolm Jenkins is one of the more underrated players in the National Football League. Guy that came out of Ohio State as a corner, moved to safety, played a few years in New Orleans, has really thrived in the safety position. That was more of his true position. The Eagles really, getting guys back in their true position, and they ended up thriving. But Sidney Jones kind of up and down at corner. You got Ronald Darby's up and down at quarter. Pass defense is where the Eagles need to improve. And, they hope that Darius Slay is going to still be a lockdown corner, because they need help in the secondary. It's a secondary that struggles at times, but so they need help they can get in the secondary. But the Eagles last year, 9-7, fell short in their first playoff game, ended up losing to the Packers, I believe. But this is still one of the better rosters in the National Football League. I've been saying that for years about the Philadelphia Eagles. Absolutely great roster, very talented. Carson Wentz, very telling year for him this year. A couple years removed from the Super Bowl, led by Nick Foles. He came and took over after Wentz suffered that ACL injury. But a very telling year for the Philadelphia Eagles in a division where you got to play the Cowboys. The Washington football team is, they'll not very good roster, but improved. You got drafted Chase Young. You have, who else is in that division? The Giants, who are, the Giants the last few years. Daniel Jones, we'll see what he is. You got Saquon Barkley, who's going to be tough to stop, but the Giants really don't have a lot of anything else. I guess they got a young receiving core, so improve their offensive line. So this is a division that was last year. This was kind of a division that the Cowboys lost more so than the Eagles won. The Eagles started off 1-2, and then they reeled off a couple wins in a row against Green Bay, blew out the Jets. But this was the Cowboys kind of blew it, and then the Eagles did. They did have solid play down the end, but ended up they beat the Giants late, and just, they were okay, but, just did enough to kind of get in. There's always that one team that's just like, come on, they did just enough to get in. They're likely going to get beat. That was the Eagles, but, the Eagles under Howie Roseman, this is a team that's well run. Obviously, most teams that win a Super Bowl have good management, so it'd be interesting to see what goes on with the Eagles with one of the better rosters in football, kind of aging on the defensive side of the ball, but, we'll see. I'm curious to see if this is we'll see how hungry this Eagles team is this year. So thank you guys so much for the support of Big Time Football Talk. Thanks for tuning in to the latest episode. Until next time, peace.